About 90 senators have endorsed the proposal for the creation of Anioma State to become part of Southeast geopolitical zones. And these 90 senators, approximately, it has surpassed two-thirds the requirement for the, passing of a bill in the Senate.
But the fact is that, according to Delta State gazetted laws, there are only 5 ethnic groups in Delta: the Yorubas, the Igbos, the Ejos, the Shekiris, and the Isokos. There's no mention of Benin. There's no mention of Yorubas or also within Delta North.
Even the Enugu Igbo is different from the Abia Igbo, is different from the Onitsha Igbo.
Yes. But we are all Igbos. Anioma is historically an Igbo enclave. And there's no doubt about that.
Last week, the Joint Committee of the National Assembly on Constitutional Review approved the creation of an additional state for the Southeast geopolitical zone. The committee also agreed to revisit the over 278 pending requests for new local government areas and 55 proposals for new states, noting that a newly formed subcommittee will handle additional reviews. While many are calling for the creation of an Anioma state,
one-man show being driven by my senator, Senator Ned Nwoko. I support this because it has been an agitation that has been for 50 years. If you remember very well, someone like you, Ruben, will remember that the Rikife Commission in 1975 that dwelt on the issue of creation of states. Anioma was one of the states that were submitted. For now, we had the Western Igbo. Where we had the 3 regions. We had the North, South, and the West. We were classified as Western Igbo. Then we came to Midwest Igbo. Then we came to Delta Igbo. And Igbo is a corrupted way of pronouncing Igbo. And some of my brothers from the Ndokwa Okwani extraction who tend to fight and say we don't want to be associated with the Igbo. Some live in self-denial. Why do I say this? I was the editor of the book of the history of, that's the book of Ndo.
But of course, there were 2 reasons why for so many, almost like centuries, we were kept at the back burner, kind of confined to Western Nigeria. And why most people some people from my area seem to have gotten to the point where they were not sure whether they were Igbos or not Igbos. But majority extended their tentacles to our area. So much so that some people began to think that they were Benis. But we're not Benis, we're Igbos. And there's nothing Benin about us.
Okay, today is about the creation of Anioma State. Yes, there is a significant progress in the creation of Anioma State being championed by Senator Ned Nwoko of Delta North Senatorial District of Delta State. About 90 senators have endorsed the proposal for the creation of Anioma State to become part of Southeast geopolitical zones, at least to make Southeast 6 states to try to match up with other states, other geopolitical zones, So that is a very good achievement. And, these 90 senators, approximately, it has surpassed two-thirds the requirement for the, passing of a bill in the Senate. But before we proceed, you can see, many of you don't know that I'm a chief. Where you see me, I move up and down, you think I'm not. I'm a chief, full-fledged chief. So that is it. And, because of this topic that made me to dress like this. So, but before we continue, let's listen to what Ned Nwoko said recently, and other things that we need to hear before we proceed. Thank you.
Our people.
9 local government
areas
in that senatorial district.
And we are almost completely Igbos. Of course, there are arguments about some areas, some people have come from Igala or come from Benin. But the fact is that, according to Delta State gazetted laws, there are only 5 ethnic groups in Delta, the Yorubas, the Igbos, the Ejos, the Shakiris, and the Isokos. There's no mention of Benin. There's no mention of Yorubas or also within Delta North.
Apart from Delta North,
Yeah.
there are those who say, and you might be touching the wrong nerve here. In River State, for example,
Yeah.
there are Igbos there.
Oh, of course, yes.
The Ikweres.
Opobos.
Or the Opobos.
They're everywhere. Igbos are everywhere. Igbos actually.
So if you create, for example, are you hoping that they will join the Anioma State, or Anioma State is going to solely from your proposition and the literature that they have put forward, is going to be solely from the 9 local government areas of Delta North?
Look, with initially my bill was centered around the 9 local government areas of Delta North, and however, a lot has happened since then. But if you look at the explanatory note to my bill, it talks about the Anioma State to become the 6th state of the Southeast, the 37th state of the country.
Does the Southeast, so the 5 states in the Southeast see you as Igbos?
Of course, yes.
And I've heard,
of course.
I don't speak much of Igbo, but I've heard
I can tell you, look,
the funkified Igbos of the Anomas.
No. Every language has dialects. Every language, even Yorubas, from Lagos to Oyo to...
Even the Enugu Igbo is different from the Abia Igbo, is different from the Onitsha Igbo.
Of course, yes. But we are all Igbos. Anioma is historically an Igbo enclave. And there's no doubt about that. From our names to our language, to our culture, our tradition, our food, everything is Igbo. You know, and we have always identified ourselves as Igbos. Of course, there were 2 reasons why, for so many, almost like centuries, we were kept at the back burner, kind of confined to Western Nigeria. And why most people some people from my area seem to have gotten to the point where they were not sure whether they were Igbos or not Igbos. But majority of us understand who we are and understand where we've come from. And let me just explain what I mean. There are, during the war, the Civil War, most people, we had the Asaba massacre. After the Asaba massacre and the rest of the killings within our area, we were told as kids that if you see Nigerian soldiers, you must not admit that you are Igbo. You must tell them that you're from Benin or that you are Yoruba. These are kind of things that we had to do to survive the ethnic cleansing that happened at that time. So, of course, there was also this issue of Benin Empire. At the time there was a Benin Empire where, Benin at its height extended their tentacles to our area. So most of that, some people began to think that they were Benis, but we're not Benis, we're Igbos. There's nothing Benin about us.
So you have people from Agbo, from Kwale.
Well, having listened to that agitation is not today thing. It has been there for ages, decades ago. That agitation for Southeast, that's the creation of Anioma to become part of Southeast, Then, you see, it is not only the way you dress, like the way I dress now. It is not only the dressing that made you what you are. I saw somebody the other day in the social media talking, you see mature person talking anyhow. He was wearing Ishiago and later brought Yoruba cap and put say, okay, now he has become Igbo Yoruba. It doesn't work that way. There are things that made you what you are. Your culture. Your language. Your native language. It's not that you went to learn how to speak Igbo or you learn how to speak Yoruba. That one is different. In your village, your native language, how do you people dress? Let's take, for instance, these Anioma people that want to join their people in the southeast. We are not talking about Ikwere because he was asked, what about the Ikweres and the rest? It doesn't matter, but they are talking about Anioma to become part of southeast states. Ikwere is majorly. Yes, I know Ikwere is a larger part of River State. Well, that one is pending. They can decide what they want tomorrow. But for now, it's not just about the ethnic group. It is about to make up Southeast, at least when it comes to political affairs, it will balance up. Some geopolitical zones has up to 7 states, I think. But Southeast is the least one that has 5. Others 6, 7. So it's just to balance it up a bit. It's not majorly about ethnic group. So people should get this thing or very clear in their mind. You see the point now. So now, what makes you what you are is the language you speak, the native language. Anioma people, they speak Igbo language. The food they eat, Igbo food. They have 4 market days. They answer Igbo name. You know, the confusion came in during the war. The war made it the way it is today. You know, some people, they try to see if they can maneuver so that they can avoid attack because people suffered. Washioko, many people had, you know, unimaginable problems then. So people were looking for a way to escape. They don't have any, in fact, there's nothing to come to mind to do. So they forged this idea of let them say that they are not Igbos so that they can escape the Nigerian military. That is how it all started. So, but now they have woken up, they want to do the right thing. Maka na onye na-amara ebe o si pụta, ebe mmiri na ọmabịa ama amakwa n'ebe ọ nọ kwụsị. You must nwata tonite ọ jụba ese ọ kaba arụ ka ọ marụ ka o si mee. Ihe melụnụ. You see, that is why these people, they decide they are now regaining that consciousness. It's not today, you know, but they now want to make it very clear that we are Igbos. Yes, very, very clear. It's not that they are not denying the fact that some people, some other tribes came into Delta and form part of their community. They are not denying it. But the Anioma people, they are majorly Igbo people. And the Southeasterners are not begging them to come and join. Yes, it is our duty to let them know that you are our brothers. You are our brothers.
They make a case for Anioma State. And it's Anioma in the Southeast. I thought Anioma was in the Delta. Ukwane area. Is it not Delta? So please.
Well, thank you, Abatsi, once again. Congratulations on your milestone that will be coming up on Friday, next Friday, on getting to Diamond. And I know a road to be leading to Lagos. But having said that, let me also make it clear that I'm not speaking here for my principal, the distinguished Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. I'm speaking essentially as someone from Anioma State and someone who has a passion for the region. Yes, Ukwani, which is the local government area I come from, is part of Anioma State. It has 9 local government areas. It has the Ika, it has the Aniocha South, Aniocha North, Oshimili, and that is where the acronym actually came from. When you say Anioma, it's A is for Aniocha, it's for the entire region of the 9 states. When you say we are not from the Southeast, you see, a lot of our people have gone with that misconception that it's like a one-man show being driven by my Senator Ned Nwoko. I support this because it has been an agitation that has been for 50 years. If you remember very well, someone like you, Ruben, will remember that the Rikife Commission in 1975 that dwelt on the issue of creation of states. Anioma was one of the states that were submitted before the creation of Bendel and every other state. You understand, from Bendel. Before now, we had the Western Igbo. We had the 3 regions. We had the North, South, and the West. We were classified as Western Igbo. Then we came to Midwest Igbo. Then we came to Delta Igbo. And Igbo is a corrupted way of pronouncing Igbo. And some of my brothers from the Ndokwa Okwani extraction who tend to fight and say we don't want to be associated with the Igbo. Some live in self-denial. Why do I say this? I was the editor of the book of the history of, that's the book of Fundo Sumili and Okwani, people of the Niger Delta. This book was written by my late father, very Reverend Professor Okolubo. And when this book was written, he didn't publish it before he died. He only published the Christianity aspect. I published that book in 2004. And I was able to read that book back to back as the editor of the book. And I remember very well that the book clearly stated and was confirmed by Professor Barry Kim, a foremost historian, who says that we are from the Igbo extraction, but we also have the Edos who came to settle, independent settlers. We have the Igalas. But in all, we cannot deny the cultural and linguistic affinity of our people from Ndokwa West and Okwani and Ndokwa East to the Anioma area. Why are we saying Anioma is viable? Ndokwa happens to be the area that has the largest gas reserve in West Africa. We're completely shortchanged when, for example, when I was a commissioner in Delta State, when I had the privilege of serving in Deso Padek, quantum of production was just 9%, which I thought was not fair. The Shekiris had 29%, the Jaws had 27%, the Urubos had 21%, and the Isokos had 14%. And I was further reduced to 4%. I had a colleague who was serving with me. That I had to do 90 projects was because I had to go cap in hand, begging the members of the House of Assembly who were from Aniocha, Oshimili, and Ika to give me the jobs because they were not considered as oil producing. So there are works that were domiciled in my area. That was domiciled in the oil producing area. I took them to my area. That was one of the secrets of my success. So I know what marginalization is, and I know the advantage of us going to Anioma. And don't also forget that in 2006, there was a committee set up by the National Assembly, headed by Nwanyanwu, for there to be creation of state. Anioma was also one of those who was promoted by the late Asagba of Asaba. And so it is not a one-man show as is being connoted. We believe in the project, and I believe by the time the referendum is done, our people would have been educated on the reason why we should have the Anioma in the southeast, because the southeast has been said to be a dotted region, a landlocked region. Now, if you create Anioma state, and for example, we also collaborate with ANIM, which has been one of the states that is agitating, you will now have the area no more landlocked because we are bordered by the Isokos, the Urubos, Ethiopia East on our borders. And I think it's going to be a win-win situation if this one state is considered by the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It will be a landmark decision to be the first state to have been created under the civilian regime, as it were.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question that I think we've asked a number of our guests, and I'd like to get your perspective on this. Should we be creating more states? I ask because while I understand the sentiment and the arguments for the creation of Anioma state in the spirit of fairness, if you look at the number of states per geopolitical area, but in a recent...
Okay, having listened to that, because okay, ya da no channel no ewu ana amuno ogbere. Yes, onwe if notice na megasi makana it is the person that fetched firewood infested and that invited lizard into his house. Yes. Aka ine aka if I dressed in my chieftaincy attire. Aka now, yeah, aka ndi Igbo. Yeah, original aka ijimara ndi Igbo. O when ke bidozi Igbo fu kita. As na mo amen go that thing. O when ke yibere ofu some time ago, not maybe notice we me like 2-3 years ago. Ndana the tiny. Yeah, aka ndi Bini. On the Bini waka. If I'm not mistaken, but I am very sure ya aka nke anwa bụ aka ndị Benin ndị a na-adị tiny ndị Igbo anya na-eyi ụdị aka anwa unu pụtasị na ndị Benin pụtasị na-asị na unu na-akọpị ha nọ na be ha ka unu si wee weta ihe unu na-eyi mana na ihe eji mara aka ndị Igbo na-eyi ebe a ifu ya ifu na ọ dị iche na ebe ide anyị dị iche na nke ha na-aba bụrụ ofu so ị na-emekwa ị na-azụ ụkwụ ịma ka isi azụ ka na ọ nwekwara ụdị nke agbatụkwa small size ifu nke agba na small size is okay mana aka anyị dị iche na aka ha na-aba bụrụ ofu ọ bụrụ the same make and that is by the way but ka anyị na-ekwukwa ihe anyị na-ekwu for the final word for some people that are still doubting or they don't feel like becoming part of Southeast. Yes, some people still have that mentality, but just very few people. Let me tell you what happened in Asaba at St. Patrick, to be precise. If you know Asaba West End, St. Patrick, that is where people were murdered. The genocide that happened there. In fact, it did not happen anywhere in the main Southeast. It did not happen there. What happened in Asaba? And who led that troop? Moratara Mohammed, the one in your 20 naira. He is the person that led that troop that massacred people, Asaba people. You say that you are not Igbo, but you are the most victim. You see, you are the most victim when it comes to problems. When it comes to war, you suffered it the more. Based on what happened during that Biafra war. So the point is that, we have passed that stage of whether these people are Igbos or not. The stage we are now is the creation of Anioma state. Let the Anioma state become part of the Southeast so that it will balance up when it comes to politics. Sometimes voting and some other things that determine, positions. When Southeast is balanced as 6 states, well, it has more meaning and it makes more sense. Let me conclude by saying that Adekpu Afimaka onwe mgbe ọ ga-elu opegodo onwe mgbe ọ ga-elu obunite ma mkpunzi aka and onye ji ife nwata wenie ya enu akolobia ilo owetu anya ihe na-adochi ya anya azụ na Nigeria bụ na afọ eziokwu a na-edile ya na-edile destiny ekwugo m ihe a ugboro kwukwakwu ya the earlier the better for us. It's better we go back to our confederal system of government. Yes, we have tested every other thing and we see that it's not working out. Nigeria would have made more progress if we had been in the confederal system where each region stay on their own. Yes, as it were before the Civil War, or as it were before the independence. People were on their own. This little competition is there. The Yorubas with cocoa, the northern with the granite, and the east with palm oil. Now look at what is happening. None of these things, we cannot boast with any of them now because of the type of system that we are running. So the earlier the better for us. Thank you. Until I come your way next time, I say bye for now.